Hey guys, this is Marc Owings, and I'm your host for the Unbridled Life Podcast, where we have real, raw, and unreligious conversation to encourage and challenge men and women in their daily lives. Well, welcome to the Unbridled Life Podcast. So pumped to be here today with my friend Chad Lacefield. Chad, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely honored to be here.
The Unbridled Life, you represent this. We're going to be talking about a topic that when people hear it, they may do what I did. When I heard this word, it was like the F-bomb in Christianity, except it started with the D, and no, it's not divorce. It's the word discipline. And so let me tell you a little bit about my buddy Chad. Chad is a husband. He's a father, 2 grandkids, 1 on the way. They call you boss and darling.
It's on my bracelet that she made me boss.
It's got ink and all that. I love it. Her name's Sutton Page, and then we got River, and then 1 on the way, that unknown name.
Unknown.
But a little girl coming, right?
Yep, little girl.
Come on. So, Chad, you've owned your own bit. You started off in sales.
Yep.
Then you owned your own business with a buddy, Dwayne.
Yep.
Sold that, and then went to work for a large roofing industry, and now you're a high-level executive in the roofing industry.
Yes, sir.
So stud all the way around.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, tell us the story. Why is discipline important to you, and tell me where it came from out of your childhood.
You know, when you called and asked to talk about discipline, I really had to go back and think about, I've never really thought about where discipline started in my life. It's just, I've kind of always known to have it. People always recognize it in me, more so than I do myself. It's more of just a routine for me, but it relates back to discipline. But as I thought through that story, I was thinking about when I was 10 years old, I went to work for my great uncle, and I think this is when it triggered for me, Mark. They had a very large garden. We got up at 6 a.m. to run cattle and to do the hay. But at 12 o'clock, I had to set my alarm at 10 years old to go turn the sprinklers off in a garden. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I should be sleeping as a kid. But I remember the excitement every day, and usually waking up around 11:30, 11:45 before the alarm went off to go turn that off. And because he would praise me that the water was turned off. When he got up at 5, he would always go check to see if I turned the water off, or it ran all night, right? And so I think I recognized the praise that I got from doing the right things, and then it just implemented into my life, really not knowing. But as I got older and started trying to win in life and to put goals out there, it almost came natural, but not natural. Like I had to continue to work at it. But that's where discipline started. When I had never thought about that before you asked me that question, but it started at around 10 years old and it's carried on in my life.
Come on. I love it because the reward, for anything to get good in your life, you've got to have something that's a win, a celebration, a word. And in your case, it was a reward from a man. For those of you who know, Chad did not grow up wealthy. He's got an incredible grandmother that raised him. But you didn't grow up wealthy. But out of growing up, you worked in the hayfield. Mm-hmm. And so how old were you when you started working that? I mean, because that's hard work.
I mean, at 10, I didn't do much other than ride and pick up the stuff that, whether it be the scraps that fell or open the gates but at 10 is when I started working and getting a work ethic. As a young kid.
And that carried, how long did you do that?
I did it from probably 10 to 14. Every summer. 10 to 14. $50 a week.
$50 a week.
$50 a week. And it was a lot of money. I was big time. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So as we talk about this discipline, let's auger down a little bit. How would you personally define discipline or self-discipline?
I think discipline is, the way I would define that is it's something that you do every day and it doesn't come natural. And it's something that you have to implement, and it's something that you have to put in your daily routine that you don't want to. Because the reality is we want to sleep as long as we want to.
Sure.
We want to watch the TV we want to. We don't really like going to work when they say you have to be there from 9 to 5. But discipline is something that you implement in your life to make you better. And I think when you start seeing you have that desire to win in life, that desire to move the needle, that desire to go bigger in all that you're doing, there has to be discipline in it.
Oh, I love it. I've written down a few things, and I want you to respond to these. In defining this, self control, delayed gratification, long suffering, because sometimes if you're going to delay gratification, you got to suffer until you do this. Like one of the things, Chad, that I watched was they did a study on kids with marshmallows. And so what they did in the studies, and it was a third, a third, and a third. And so they told every child, you can eat this marshmallow or you can delay, and I forgot the time, 1 minute or 2 minutes. And if you'll delay that long, then we'll give you a second one. The first group, as soon as people left, they looked at it and ate it. And that would have been me as a kid, for
Me
sure.
too.
Yeah,
Me today.
So you have areas that you're not
Food, I have no discipline.
Yeah. But you're working on it.
Yeah, that's right.
So the second group would delay as long as they could and try to turn their back on it, but sometimes would succumb to the temptation. The third group turned their back on it, got it out of their sight, and stayed there until the person came back in, and then they got two. And so when it comes to delayed gratification, I'm curious of how all that applies. Which one of those, goal setting, long suffering, delayed gratification, self-control, what do you have to say, and how do you do that?
I definitely want to come back to that story on the marshmallows because it happened to me this weekend. Literally, it wasn't marshmallows; it was queso. But the same thing. But for me, it's all about goal setting.
Okay.
Whether that be in the way I want to look, the way I want to perform, the way I want to win at work. If you can work on it or work in it. And a lot of us just work in it. And I just actually met with my managers talking about this. Do you work in the business or on the business? And a lot of us work in the business, which basically means we allow the day to come at us. And we win in the day because we solve all the problems that come in us. But if we want to win long term, whether that be in our marriage, raising our kids, a successful business, we have to work on it. So if we have to work on it, we have to have a vision and goals. And we have to set vision and goals. And the only way to achieve vision and goals is to be disciplined. We have to begin to take things out and add things in that we probably don't want so that we can hit our vision and goals.
Okay, I want to drive, and I'll bring you back to the queso. I want to drive this because I've been to Casey, Wyoming. We traveled together. We did some things, and one morning, Chad wakes. I think this dude could be a vampire because I would go to bed, and he would go to sleep before me, but he would lay there, and I know he's not asleep, and then he'd wake up way before me, and I thought, dude, he couldn't have slept 2 or 3 hours, and you were up riding. Tell me kind of some practical ways and what, because I was shocked. I was like, Chad, teach me that. And we sat down at the table and you taught me what you did. When you set a goal, walk us through that process for you, because you're a high achiever, you're high energy, loud talker, moving fast salesman. When I say salesman, not the slick salesman. He is honorable and integrous, but he is consistent in what you do. Give me the practical of how you do that on paper.
I think the biggest thing is, and the hardest part for me is being quiet. And so you said, I know you were just laying there in bed. So a lot of nights when I am just laying there, to me it's rest, right? The screens are turned off. There's no noise. My rest for me is thinking about the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. And so a lot of times in bed, I'm thinking through that. So I go to sleep thinking about how, first of all, what I want, and second of all, how I'm going to get there. So when I wake up in the morning, it's fresh on my mind of what I thought about laying in bed. So when I get up, I begin to journal on how I'm going to achieve those goals. And that just works for me. Some of you may have to carve out time early in the morning or mid-afternoon, whatever your jam is. Mine just so happens to be late at night and then early in the morning when I'm fresh, I can put the plan together. I can't put the plan together late at night because I don't think as well. But as I'm trying to sleep, that's my time where it winds me down, but I still want to win when I'm winding down. So I think about what it's going to look like. And so first thing when I wake up, I'm fresh, right? I'm a morning person. If you're not a morning person, that's great. You could do opposite and do this at the evening. But when I wake up, I begin to journal how I'm going to win.
And so I've watched you do this. You create little boxes, and you check those boxes off as you're achieving them throughout the day, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I wanted to say, and that I've implemented, whether it's a circle, a box, a check, you do it on your phone or a piece of paper. Paper helps me think. It slows me down to write and do that. But I like what you just said of using your time. It's a routine. We see it in the sports industry, right? If you're a golfer, they've got a routine when they set over a putt or volleyball, whatever it is. They've got a routine that they go through both mentally and physically before they set off in that game. So you're saying do the same thing. Create a routine in your self-discipline. Write it down. Set goals. And so give me some ways to win implementing self-discipline, because I think one of the things I've always done is I set some outlet spiritually for me. I set out to memorize the entire Bible. Can I tell you, I ain't there. But it was just, instead of eating the elephant one bite at a time, I tried to swallow the whole elephant, and it chokes you. So tell people that are listening, men, women, and maybe even some college kids here that are listening that I know listen to us, what are some easy ways to set up some wins in your life?
Well, I first want to say is, what's the why? So many times we see, and I'm caught in this because I love learning. I hated school, but I love learning business. I love learning self-discipline. You know, if you look at any Instagram and these, what do they call them, the gurus or all the influencers, whatever they are, I love listening to those guys because I may take an hour podcast and take one thing and try to implement it the next day, the next week, the next month. But what's the why? Like, we can hit on fitness because everybody wants to be fit and abs and all this stuff. But what is the true why? Is it because you want to look good at the beach, or is it because you want to live longer, you want to perform better, you want to feel better to perform better? So you have to have the why so that you are able to achieve the goal. And if we just say, because I saw, Steve Weatherford or Ed Milet, or, you can go down the list of successful people that are on shows right now, and you just like, I want to do that. And so you try to implement that, and we fail because we don't have a why. What's the real reason of why we want to win? So I would say you have to start with the why, and then you start small. If you've never worked out in your life, if you've never gotten up early, if you've never set your clothes down or set your clothes out at night, that's where it starts. So if I want to tackle the day better than I ever have before, right? That's your why. I just want to be better. Okay. That could be your why. So what does that look like in small steps? That means that I'm going to set my clothes out on my dresser the night before. It's super easy, super small.
It's achievable.
That's right. You can look back in 5 days and say, okay, I did it 4 out of 5. You won, right? You're one step closer to that goal. But you have to start in small steps. And if it's the workout, you want to work out more. If you want to read your Bible, say I'm going to commit to 3 out of 5 days. Don't say I'm going to work out 7 days a week, because the reality is you're probably going to fail. Your schedule's not going to allow it. Something's going to happen. You're going to get an injury. Something's going to happen to knock you off. And then what happens when we get knocked off early in the journey?
Man, we get disappointed.
We stop.
It's over.
Right?
Yeah.
We stop. And that's why all the people make fun of all the things on January 1 when people make the commitment to, gym membership skyrocket. That's their favorite time of year, and they make a ton of money. But the reality is we get knocked off. So do it something achievable. And I'm not saying if you want to do something, I'm going to do it 1 time a week, right? Then you really don't have a why, and you really don't want to win. I'm just going to be honest with you. But if you want to win, make it achievable. Do the small steps. I want to drink more water. Prepare your water the night before, right? So when you get up, it's already prepared. So I try to prepare everything the night before for the next day.
Great discipline.
I already feel like I've half won that day. My clothes are set out. My water's set out. I've already gone through my calendar to find out what's going to happen the next day. I know exactly where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, as I'm going to sleep, and I'm thinking about tomorrow, winning tomorrow. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, what I need to prepare for, and it just helps me win that day. And I'm halfway there the day before.
I love it. So you're taking the distraction out of it and setting the things up that are simple. And so here's a simple one for me as I think about this. Get up and make your bed. Or if your spouse isn't out of the bed when you get home, make that bed every single time. I like it making the bed. If Leslie's up, I will make the bed every time. It's a sense of accomplishment. Then I'll move into the kitchen. And I usually do this at night. I clean the whole kitchen because what gives me peace is I can't say it's complete order, but it's the appearance of order.
I've seen you do it. Yeah. I mean, dishes aren't going to be in the sink when you wake up because now you wake up and there's disorder.
Yep. And immediately I feel frustration that tips me into an area that's my words, my heart, everything just starts moving the other direction. So talking about distractions, bring us back to the queso.
So, I feel like I'm disciplined. Mark, my wife, my friends, they recognize it, they see it, they brag on me, which helps me to continue to stay disciplined. So I appreciate that about everybody in my life. But self-discipline in eating is if I could win in all areas of life, I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job, except in self-discipline in eating. I've always made the joke, I work out so I can eat what I want. I stole that from 100, Weight Watchers people or something. I don't know. But the reality is we went to what did we just have? Memorial Day.
Right.
Went to some friend's house. I literally was driving over there, saying I'm not hungry. I'm going to wait till they actually serve the meal because these people always have 100 snacks out, which is my downfall. And I literally said, I'm going to say hi to everybody, and then I'm going to go sit outside until the meal is ready. Didn't do it. Did not win. And just like the marshmallow, the queso distracted me. They're like, the meal is, if you'll wait 24 minutes, the meal is coming. Well, I waited about 30 seconds and dove into the queso. And then a bag of chips later, I'm still there, and now the satisfaction of the meal was not there because I was already full. But it's you can win in areas, but you have to recognize where you're not winning. And I've battled for this for a long time, and it's something that I will win. I'm just not there yet.
Come on. I love it because it's real. It's raw. It's authentic. We all have areas in our life that we struggle with. But I think it brings up this. I think how do you treat yourself when you lose? Is probably a bigger part of this because when I lose, one of the things I'm a proponent of Christian counseling or counseling, what you go do you, boo-boo. But one of the things that they said about me, this lady Linda, she said, Mark, because I didn't win the affection of my father, you have high expectation because you're trying to win in getting validation. Therefore, you have high expectations on others and are disappointed. Expectations kill intimacy. I was never graceful to myself, therefore I couldn't be graceful to others. In the last 3 years, I've learned that. But Chad, when you mess up, is there a self-discipline of what you walk through of not letting yourself off the hook, but giving grace without discounting accountability?
Yes. The grace is I just kept eating.
You said grace and
we'll
kept
do it
going?
tomorrow. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is even in the moment I recognized I had failed this discipline that I literally, this house is 11 minutes from my house. I had thought about it 11 minutes prior to getting there and lost. But when I recognized it, I was like, tomorrow I'll win that day.
Come on.
And I did. I won yesterday. But it's okay. And I think that you just have to make sure that you get back on track. And it's similar to what we said, start small in your discipline areas, whether that's reading your Bible or working out or being a good friend or whatever that is, being present at work. Start small, and then if you fall off track, if you veer to the left or the right, the next day is the next day. The next day you can take the step to win. And you can't let that anxiety and that depression creep in that I'm not good enough, I'm never going to win. You just go back to your old ways. It's one day. You could be 20 years old or 70 years old. You have a whole lot of life left. Just start the next day. And if I could just say, put it behind you and prepare that night before the next day.
Yeah, I got an idea. If you're out there and that's you have a tendency to be really hard on yourself, which I can, which leads to me being really hard on people. And let me redefine that and re-say that. It used to be that I did that. once I acknowledged that, I started realizing maybe you need to write a piece of paper next to your nightstand that says reset. And before you go to bed, you hit that reset and you realize tomorrow's going to be a whole new day. Jesus says in his word, his mercies are new every morning. Why? Because we need those mercies every day. So if you focus on what you did yesterday, you're not going to accomplish what you do today. So I want to switch this. Chad, what are the benefits of self-discipline? So walk me through your version of what that might be.
I mean, I think the benefits, one, you feel great. And I'm about to swing it back on you here in a second because of that, because you feel great.
I do.
I think from the fitness to pre-planning, whether you're a clock in, clock out guy, you can still plan for your business, right? You have a job to do. And if you just wake up and just do that job, then you're going to be average. You're just going to be okay at it. But if you begin to plan, if you're sacking groceries, the night before, think about what went good and what went bad that day, and switch to the good at the beginning of the day when you get there to sack groceries. You don't have to be a high-level executive to win and to have this thought process to win. You could be a husband, you could be a stay-at-home mom, you could be a stay-at-home dad. And there's things that we can implement in discipline because it's gratifying. It's gratifying when we win, when we do things great. I'm going to tell my wife a little bit. I mean, she just got through doing a marathon. Super proud of her and my daughter. And
26 miles?
26 miles, yes. And I was just a great cheerleader is all I was that day. But what I love about what she saw when she put her mind to discipline, because she's not a runner. When I got on that plane, it was a 3.5 hour plane ride, and I just felt led to write her an encouraging letter about that.
Come on.
So as I wrote her this letter, right, I'm her cheerleader, that next Monday, sore and all, she got up and freaking killed the day just because she saw benefits of being disciplined and finished a task.
She got a reward.
Yep. And then at the next day, she began to implement new things. She didn't start off big, but she got up an hour earlier. She, by 10 o'clock, I'm getting a text. I felt like I've killed this day. And it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, that's why I do it every day, right? And not being boastful. But the reality is it becomes infectious to you. It becomes something that you desire when you create that habit, and you begin to win in the areas that you weren't winning in. And it's not maybe that you weren't winning, but it's areas that you wanted to be better. It just becomes something that is so fun. It becomes something that you want to go to bed early so that you can get up and win the day. You want to go to bed early so you're prepared for the day. You want to go to bed earlier so that you can be present and you're not tired when you get home, to be there, the father that God created you to be there for your kids. Mm-hmm. But see, the reality is sometimes we trade that. We trade that for late night TV, which drags us out. We get through the day at work, and then when we get home, we selfishly say, I'm just tired. But the reality is God has created you to be a father or a wife, to be present, to lead your family, to lead at work, to lead in all areas of your life. And discipline allows you to win in that area.
I love it because, Chad, I think God designed us. I know God designed us. And it's true. When you achieve things, and anything can be taken too far, right?
And I want to talk on that.
Yeah. So, but I think when we get a reward, it releases a chemical in us, much like a chemical gets released in us in depression and anxiety. And I face that. But I'm also facing these achievement things, and it's releasing, all I could call it is joy, happiness, fun. I'm not down. I'm not as, I always felt like, God delivered me from depression and anxiety, but it stands outside my door and knock. It's further down the street. It ain't even not knocking at my door anymore. So, and I used to ask, what is this? And I was looking for a spiritual answer when the answer was self-discipline in this particular area. So you can cast out all the demons. You can pray as long as you want. You can do anything you want, but you can read the scripture as much as you want. Trust me, I've read more scripture than most people, and I don't mean that bragging. But if I don't apply it, and there is a lot of scripture in there about discipline and applying that to your life. So, you wanted to ask me
Yeah,
a
I do.
question.
So I'm sitting here with Mark. It's 8:30 in the morning.
Come on.
And this is not the Mark I've known for the last 12, 13 years.
Nope.
Mark would speak over himself. I'm not a morning person. That's you. That's not me.
Yep.
And God did something in him. First of all, I want to hear that. But then, two, he's implemented a new plan in his life of discipline. And Mark doesn't do caffeine and he doesn't do energy drinks, but you're almost like you're on an energy drink. I think it's the endorphins of winning. I don't know. Explain that to me.
I think it is. First, I'm so grateful. I think God plants people in your life to be like a sign. And Chad was planted in my life. A lot of other people that are really disciplined. My cousin Jeff is super disciplined. But because of a trauma that happened to my wife and an illness, here's how it snuck in for me. I started with a heart sleeping in to protect her sleep, and it was truly my heart. But then it turned into an excuse. And then I wasn't winning at work. And then I wasn't winning the way that God designed me. I'm high charge, high energy. And I noticed I just kept getting more and more docile. And I was like, what is going on? And at first I thought it was a good thing. But it wasn't. So I started this prayer thing and just watching prayer, because I've spent my life on a platform either preaching, prophesying, or leading people to Christ. And it's like God just came in through the back door and just said, I want to teach you about prayer, really about prayer. And I can say today that I'm having so much daily wins in prayer, in self-discipline. I have to get up. I have to set my clock. I set my clock at 5:30 this morning. Like, hey, I want a little more time to prepare and spend time with Jesus. The new Chad's coming. So I'm seeing God answer prayer daily, and their rewards. It's like, holy cow, when I engage in this, I'm winning. I'm writing more than your wife and I and Kim are writing right now, 365-day devotion that we're going to make available by the end of this year. We wrote 40 last week and
got to 100, she told me.
Yeah, 60 yesterday. Yep. We had joy. At first, we're all, kind of fighting it, but I'm leading it now. It's like, hey, let's set a goal. Set a vision. Let's set the goal. Let's win. We walked away at 3:00, but we were all up early, and I had a full day by 11 o'clock, but I finished strong by about 3:30. Man, I was done and got to come home and celebrate and be with my family. So I'm seeing the wins. And I also want to say this, about 3 years ago, I realized that now that I wasn't in control of my mouth. I vented about you, about Megan, about my work, honestly, about everyone. And that never helped me. Now that I've turned the Lord into my sanctuary instead of somebody, it's changed everything. I'm no longer venting. And I'm owning what's happening. And there's discipline that he's given me, like, hey, that's not a good thought. So bring that to me and let's talk about it. So that's been the win for me. That's been the reward.
I love that.
Yeah.
And as Mark talked about, is when you become more disciplined and you begin winning and you don't even realize it, there's that a desire that comes in you for the more that you continue to chase, and chase not in a bad way. And I want to spin this because I've been disciplined for so long. I had it in a bad way. When we got married extremely young, married to a high school girl and a high school boy, I was disciplined from that time. And I would see when my wife slept till 7 a.m. on the weekends, she was lazy. I would see that when the house wasn't clean by 8 a.m., she was lazy. And it was because of my discipline that can also be a hindrance. So I had to, 10 years into it, now I'm not saying I recognized it and fixed it. 10 years into it, it got pointed out to me that she's not lazy. She's still above average of the time that people get up on the weekends.
100%.
But if you get up at 4 and she gets up at 7, there's 3 hours she wasted. Well, the reality is she's a different person than me. She needs something different than me. Because I think a win is a certain way doesn't mean your spouse is going to think a win is a certain way. And so you have to really recognize the balance. So remember, it's your journey. It's not your journey and you're hoping everybody adapts to your journey. And so you have to recognize that this is your goals, plans, and vision to win your life, the plan that God has got you on. And so your biggest job now, if you're married or thinking about getting married, is to encourage your spouse or potential spouse in what their goals and dreams are. And you have to allow, just the same way that the Lord came in the back door for Marc, you have to allow them to come up with their game plan to win. And telling them that they're lazy, or not telling them, but telling them with that face, or being quiet to them, or whatever the situation, whatever your poison is. My poison was just ignoring, and she knew that she was lazy because she slept until 6:59, right? And so, but I think it's very important, as you become disciplined, remember this is your discipline. It's not everybody's around you.
So don't build your discipline or all of your discipline, because I looked at you and I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to be Chad Lacefield. Don't even want to. But now that I've done it, I want to be coached. I want to be teachable. I want to learn. It's like, I don't want to go crazy with it. Maybe I do.
Yeah.
I don't know yet, but I am feeling so good getting up and achieving this, and it's affecting Leslie. I get to model this for my wife and still get to love and give grace to her. So I want to switch this, Chad, and just, how do we apply this to all of the areas of our life? Because I just wrote down a few here: individual life, marriage, family, friends, workplace, calling, spiritual growth, financial life. One of the financial pieces that I think you and I are both equally disciplined in is we made that a priority. Stewarding, I think I'm over the top. I'm not bragging about it. I had to be, because I didn't have a lot coming into the ministry. So I learned that, but also learning the discipline, the self-discipline of generosity. So what would you think about how that applies to any of those areas or that particular area?
That's good. That's a great question. I think it goes back to what I said at the beginning, is what's your why? If it's in your marriage, we say I do and we get married, but we really don't have a thought of what we want our marriage. We've seen our parents or not seen our parents. We've seen movies. We've seen it, close friends around us. But you got to remember, just like I said, it's your discipline. That's their marriage. That's their life. That's their business. You have to think about, what is it for you that you want. And so there has to be goals and visions in all areas of your life. And so everything you just listed off, from financial to personal to business to relationships, don't say, here's my vision for my life. Deep dive into each one of those areas and come up with the why. And then you're able to start with the small in each area. I'll be honest, in 2024, mine is to be a better friend. And what does that look like? To be more encouraging. What does that look like? That's what I had to break it down to, because I can go so hard that I forget to do the things that I'm called to do. And so I have to do things each day. I had to implement things each day that allows me to hit those goals that I want to be a better friend. And what does that look like?
It's great. I love it. I think that's for all of us. As we land this, I want you to talk about, and how do we celebrate not only our discipline, other people's discipline? How do we get good at that? Because I think we're kind of self-built, or it's wired into us to be Debbie Downers when we do something. How important is it to you, not only celebration, but finding a coach, a counselor, a cheerleader, somebody that's in your corner and it's like saying, way to go, or you celebrate yourself? What does that look like, and what's your advice for that?
Celebration is such a big deal, and I've learned I have to give credit to my wife. 100%. I mean, she's a great celebrator. Celebrate the littles is what she says, and there is so much truth in that, and there's so much encouragement in that for us to keep winning, even when she a lot of times doesn't see herself disciplined in an area. She will always celebrate my disciplines of how it allows us to live our life and to win in our life as a family. And so I've had to learn from her in that area. She may not get up as early as me, but she always celebrates me before I celebrate her. And so I've tried to implement that in myself. And the part is when we celebrate people, it makes them feel good, but we've done our part. And so I think it's so important to recognize not the yay me moments, but the yay them moments.
Oh,
and
that's good.
It's so good to, and Marc Owings is probably one of the best on the planet. God instilled that in him at a very young age, I'm assuming, ever since I've known him, is he celebrates people well. And so that is for one, it's an attraction. So if there's an attraction for you, for somebody, your discipline will rub off on them.
That's good.
And so when we celebrate people, there's a connection, right? If you're looking to get closer to your wife, celebrate them. If you're looking to get closer to your husband or your kids, celebrate them. Don't always have the goals and vision, and when they fail, you point out the failures and never the wins. And that's where it goes back to the saying of what my wife says, celebrate the littles. Guys, when we celebrate, the connection is unreal. It's unmatched. And so when we celebrate people and we celebrate ourselves, we're connected to ourselves better, and it allows us to achieve our goals easier.
I love it. This is great advice. I just want to encourage you too. I love what he said. I'll just say it a little different way. I would say it this way, that who you choose to be, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And when you get around people that there's an attraction or something, go shopping. Shop in what you see in their marriage, in their kids, in their life, or the lack of that in your life. And you can start applying those things, and I call it cross-pollination. When you start getting around people long enough that you their pollen rubs on you and you rub on them, and they start growing flowers or something in the garden of their heart that they didn't grow before. So y'all also, Chad, you and your wife super successful. You are super successful in the business industry, more disciplined than anyone I've ever met in my life, of just killing it in that. But you also have a podcast called Built for Two. And one of the things we want to do is promote, encourage, and connect. I want to tell you, if you want to grow in your marriage, if you're looking for, a show that tells you all of the different stuff and focuses on the gossip of someone's story, this ain't for you. But if you're looking for the practical and tactical of something, how to apply the little things. Listen, small drops make big lakes. Small steps take us on huge journeys. And I love that about Built for Two and what they're doing. He's got a passion about being a light in the business industry, and he's a light to thousands of people. So I want you to know, maybe there's something in your life that you're going to do that's going to be a light in the industry. And you may be listening right now and go, I just had my first baby. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Listen, you can be a light to that child and change that child's life forever. And then the friends that start tracking around them, changing them. But I think we need self-discipline on that. So what I'm going to give Chad the last words. I want you to I want you to share, and go check out Built for Two. It's a great marriage. Listen, it's not just going to help happen in your marriage. You're going to have to take a step. Maybe your step of discipline today is listening to that podcast.
That's good. So just to break it down for you, if you've listened to all this and we've gone several different directions, I would just challenge you, come up with a plan and a vision for your life. Come up with a plan and vision for your business. Come up with a plan and a vision for your marriage, for your kids.
Come on.
What your desires are. Just start there. And that's your why. Have your why. And then just take one step each day. Implement one thing that you're going to stick to 3 to 5 days a week. It could be 7. You may be an overachiever, but set the goal to 3 to 5 days. And then the second week, go to 4. Next week, go to 5 or 6, whatever that looks like for you. But just take one small step. And each time you take a step closer, you'll be winning your goals. And if I can just say one thing, be a learner. Be a learner. If this is something that's tugged on your heart, begin to Google podcasts, begin to Google YouTube videos. And a lot of them are an hour, which is a lot of time, but go to bed listening to them. Put your headphones on, listen for 20 minutes, turn your timer off, let you fall asleep while they're talking. But study the craft of other people. But all I can say is don't be them. God's got a plan for you to be you. God created you to be you. When he created you, when he thought of you, when he brought you into being, he had a plan for you to win in life. But begin to absorb what other people are doing, take what fits you and throw out the rest, and begin to take a step closer to win in life.
Boom. You heard it on the Unbridled Life. Take a step, find out your why, and the how will come daily to you. So listen to this, and thanks for joining us today. Thanks so much for listening to the Unbridled Life Podcast. We know your time is valuable, and we hope we bring real and relevant content that helps you live that unbridled life. If you want to help us spread the message, you can rate or review the podcast on whatever platform you like to listen to us and share it with a friend or two. If you want to know more about who we are and what we're doing, head on over to theunbridledlifepodcast.com and learn more.